Hello everybody. This is the notes for geometry class, section 1.7. It's the last section of the chapter. What we're talking about here is perimeter, circumference, and area. So, perimeter, take a second, copy these things down, but perimeter, it is the distance around a figure. So all you're going to do is just add up all the side lengths. Circumference is basically the same thing, except it's the distance around a circle. So the circle doesn't have any sides, so a little bit of a different formula. And that's just the term we use, circumference, when we talk about the distance around a circle. Area, it's the amount of surface covered by the material. So if you think about the area of a room, you have two dimensions. Okay, you got the width of the room, you got the length of the room. So area is a two-dimensional thing, and that's what it says there in the bottom. So when we talk about perimeter or circumference, it is a length, it's a distance. So we use feet, inches, meters, miles, whatever, any kind of unit of length measurement. When we talk about area, it is a two-dimensional thing. You have a length and you have a width. And so when you go number of feet times the number of feet, you have feet squared, or inches squared, meters squared, whatever it is. So it's a two-dimensional thing. It's always a unit of length squared. All right, take a second, copy these down, look at them. You should know most of these. You should have seen these before. Perimeter of a square, all the sides are the same, so just 4 times the length of one side. Same idea for a rectangle. The two that might be a little bit off is triangle. Okay, the area of a triangle, 1/2 times the base times the height. And as it says in red below this box here, it says when finding the area, the base and height must be perpendicular to each other, which is not a big deal when you're dealing with a square and a rectangle. But with a triangle, it looks a little bit different. So looking at this triangle here, there, the base is going to be a side length. Okay, so in this one, it is this side length. But when you're finding area, your base and height, your two dimensions, they have to be perpendicular to each other. So the height is going to go from a vertex. It's always going to be coming from a vertex perpendicular to the side length that is the base. All right, so these two are perpendicular to each other. Base and height must be perpendicular. For a circle is not a polygon. It's completely different. So it has some different things. The diameter, that is the distance across a circle going through the center. The radius is always going to be half that distance. Radius goes from the center out to the edge of the circle. And edge is a bad word. Circles really don't have edges, but to the outside part of the circle. The diameter is always twice the length of the radius. So you could kind of flip that around. The radius is always half the diameter. So the circumference, again, the circumference is the distance around a circle. You have two formulas for that. Pi times the diameter, or 2 pi times the radius. Okay, which equation you use, it depends on the information that you have. If you're given the radius, obviously use 2 pi times r. The value of pi, okay, pi it's called an irrational number. It is essentially 3.1415, and there are literally millions of decimals. There are computers, supercomputers working all the time trying to figure out more decimals, and more importantly, they're trying to figure out a pattern in all of those decimals. With all of those millions and millions of decimal numbers, there has not been a pattern yet, and realistically, they're not going to find one. But pi is essentially 3.14. So when you're doing these problems, if your calculator has a pi button, great, use it. If it doesn't, just type in 3.1415. Okay, area of a circle, pi times the radius squared. Okay, so need to know those formulas. Let's do a couple of problems. These are pretty basic ones. Perimeter and area. So looking at this picture on the left, it's a rectangle. So the perimeter, you're just adding up all the sides. Opposite sides are the same. So just add them all up. You got 9 plus 14 plus 9 plus 14. You could shorten that up a little bit. You have 2 of these 14 length sides plus 2 of those 9 length sides. Now you can just follow your order of operations. That's 28 plus 18, and you get, 38, was that 46. But now, perimeter is a distance. Each of these lengths were feet. This perimeter is going to be the same unit of length, 146 feet. The area of a rectangle is length times width, so that is just 14 times 9. 14 times 10 is 9, times 4, we got another 36, so that is 126. Now, it was 14 feet times 9 feet, so feet times feet is feet squared. There's your area, 126 square feet. For the triangle, the perimeter, again, it's just the distance around. So pick one point, start adding up all the side lengths until you get back to that point. 12 plus 5 plus 13. And what we get is 30. Now, each of these individual lengths was inches. Use that little quote mark for inches. So the perimeter, it's the same thing as the distance. The area of a triangle is 1/2 times the base times the height. And remember, the base and height have to be perpendicular to each other. So I'm going to use this side 12 as a base. To be perpendicular to that from a vertex, it's got to be this side 5. It's already perpendicular. So the 12 and the 5. Because 12 is a side length, and because that side of 5 is perpendicular to the base of 12, there's my height. So the area is 1/2 times the base of 12 times the height of 5. So half of 12 is 6 times 5. We have an area of 30, but now this is an area. So inches times inches is inches squared. Okay. For this problem, find the circumference and area. So this 32 centimeters in the picture, that is the radius, distance from the center to the outer part of the circle. So this is R. The circumference, because we know the radius, we're going to use this equation, 2 pi times R. And so we got 2 pi times 32. Now, when you're dealing with the circles, pi, it's a symbol. It represents a number, that 3.14. But we kind of treat it like it's a variable x. So one way you can write your answer, and this is the easier way, is just leave it in terms of pi. You got 2 times 32. That's 64 times pi. That's an exact answer. You can't get any better of an answer than that, because that symbol pi represents every single one of those millions of decimals. So it's all there. This is a good answer. That radius was in centimeters, circumference is a distance, so 64 pi centimeters. This little squiggly equal sign I just put there, that means approximately. And so what you can do is, on your calculator, go 64 times 3.1415, and you'll get, a decimal version of 64 pi, and it's fine. It's an approximate. Sometimes the questions just say, round your answer to the nearest tenth or to the nearest hundredth, so you can do this, and it's still going to be a distance, so centimeters squared. There's just centimeters. I have no idea what 64 times 3.14 is, but you can do your calculator work and get that number. For the area of a circle is pi times the radius squared. So we have pi times 32 squared. Now you're only squaring the radius. So when you do your order of operations, you're going to do 32 squared, get an answer, and then you're going to multiply by pi. Okay, I have no idea what 32 squared is. It's going to be probably around 1,000. But you get your number. It's an area, so it's going to be centimeters squared. Okay, I don't know what, like I said, I don't know what 32 squared is, but you get that number, centimeters squared. All right, last example. Hit pause, try this on your own, but what we have, area of a triangle. Actually, you know what? I want you to try this on your own. This is what we'll do in class. We'll start class with this example. So that is all. Have a good night.